stuff.
Late night episode, slightly different settings today.
Yeah, very much so.
I don't know.
We
I don't know if
almost
I'm gonna have
didn't
to.
get this one done.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to perk myself up for this one for sure. 5 a.m. start this morning, so I'm like, ugh.
Oh, you're joking.
Yeah, I was at 5 this morning.
That's absolutely
Early
rough.
PT clients, they like them at 6 a.m., which is fair
Yeah.
enough, to be fair. Like, it's a good time to train, really,
So
get down out the way.
when I used to coach full time, it was early mornings and late nights because obviously you're working around people's 9 to 5s.
Literally,
Yeah, and
pretty
lunch
much,
breaks,
yeah.
squeezing them in at like 12 to 1, 1 till 2 type thing.
Literally.
But yeah. And I guess that kind of builds off some of the stuff that we've been talking about recently anyway, and that's like getting it in and getting it done.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's quite a nice time to coach, really, because the gym isn't too busy as it is on an evening. So you can kind of work through everything a little bit easier. Yeah, no, it always goes fine. I'm way more of a morning person than an evening person anyway, generally. So I'm generally quite spritey and awake anyway. Like, it doesn't take me long to like wake up, just like 30 seconds of cold shower at the end of the warm shower, and I'm good to go.
Then you're awake up and
then I'm awake.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Get some caffeine and out the door.
Yeah, a little bit of Monster Energy this morning, and I was good to go.
Beautiful.
I did go home and have a 45-minute nap, and then came back to work later on. I was out like a light when I came home, and then I came back into work later on.
That is something I cannot do. I'm strict about getting my kind of 8+ a night. To be fair, once we finish this, it will literally be go down, grab a snack, and go to bed.
Go to bed. Yeah, no, I
feel
you on that.
I cannot nap during the day. I just can't do it. I can't
used
put
to
my
be
head
like
down
that.
to sleep anywhere.
Yeah, I used to be like that for sure. I think any more than like, I try and usually, if I do ever need like a day, it's usually on weekends or what, like if I have a day off, but like if I have any more than 45, that becomes like a sleep then, and then I wake up more tired. I find so like if I have a max 45 minutes, it's like just about enough to just perk you back up again. If you're having like 2-hour naps, you're not going to feel good the rest of the day, and it's also going to fuck up your sleep for later on too.
Do you have to set an alarm if you know you're going to sleep?
Yeah, I'll set like a timer.
Yeah.
I'll just set a 45-minute timer and just nod off.
I know any time that I have fallen asleep during the day, that's exactly what happens. I wake up feeling rough.
Yeah. You got to be careful with it for sure. Anyway, that isn't the topic of today's discussion. It's not on sleep. Although I mean,
I think that's probably an important one to cover at some point.
Get as much sleep as you can is the simplest advice.
Yeah, I don't think there's much
for
more
recovery.
To it than that. It's like don't even worry about tracking your sleep. Just get as much as you can.
As much as you can. I know some people always have like more trouble than others. Just generally, just happens. Some people aren't just struggle to get to sleep. I know a fair few people are like that. I've luckily never been one of those people. I'm usually out pretty quickly. I sleep quite well. But
again, without going too far off on a sleep tangent, two small things that I do.
Yeah, sure.
And to be fair, tonight will probably affect it. Is one of them after 9 o'clock, no devices. Although we're going against that right now. And the other thing I wear is an eye mask every night, so it's pitch black.
Oh, cool.
I'm solid.
Fair play. I've never tried that before.
Night. Yeah, I never had a problem, and then one night I just, for some reason, I was really aware of the light. So the next day I just went online, bought an eye mask, and never stopped wearing it. And it made a huge difference. So small things.
Whatever works, and just trying to get in a schedule and a routine with it is always good. Like don't sleep differently every night or whatever. Try and get yourself in a bit of a rhythm
and follow it through on weekends and things like that.
Yeah, literally as much as you can.
Before this does turn into a full sleep episode.
Yeah, sure.
I guess what we're going to kind of look at this week really is just a continuation of where we were last week. Kind of what happens when you move out of that beginner to intermediate phase. What happens when you've been, I don't know, at the gym for more than 3 months, 6 months, you're confident in the environment. What happens next? Do I just blindly carry on as I've been going, or do things start to change for me?
I think it's a difficult one because sometimes you're not really sure when you can kind of judge that on quite a few different metrics, really, when you're kind of out of the beginner stage and into that intermediate stage. I think generally, like you just touch on, when you feel more comfortable is definitely a transition period. You get used to the gym, but then you could also, this might take even a year or so to get to this point where you just start plateauing on everything.
Yeah, I think
you just start plateauing on lifts, and you can't suddenly lift more doing what you've been doing before.
I think there's going to be two sets of people. There's going to be the people that just blindly go to the gym every day, or blindly go for a run every day. We could use either of those things as an example. They just go to the gym 2 times a week, 3 times a week, whatever it might be. They do the same routine every day. They hit the same machines, the same weights, nothing changes. They're going through those motions of going to the gym. The same as people might go for a run, or they might go for a bike ride, whatever it might be. And they're going through the motions of doing those things. They go for a run, the same distance, the same pace every single time. They go for a bike ride, same distance, same pace every different time. And this, to me, is quite an important period, because this is where you either lose somebody or something changes for them to then move on to the next stage of their progression. So you could use a lifter where they're now starting to get a little bit more confident. They're going to start transitioning from machines to free weights, machines to bars, or a combination of all three, whatever it might be. And they're actually starting to look at some real programming. So they're, like I say, they're confident in the environment. They're confident that this is the route that they kind of want to take their fitness. And then, but what do they do next? How do they start to program, or what might they start doing to move on from, like, say, to break that plateau, for example, where they've just been stuck in the same lift day in, day out. They're not seeing any progression because those newbie gains are starting to break off, or they're starting to slip back into their old eating habits, or whatever it might be. I think that is a really, really important stage to catch people, because I think this is the stage where people lose their discipline and motivation. And this can happen, I think, really anything from about 12 weeks up to 12 months. I think that's I know that's quite a broad window.
It's a sweet spot though, for sure.
It's somewhere in that period where this can happen to people, I think.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think it's I don't know, because you do kind of have to switch things up a fair amount just to break yourself out of that repetitive cycle of exercises and things. Things can just get a little bit boring, a little bit stale, and I think things are always a bit goal dependent. Like, you could achieve your goal, and that's when a lot of people stop going, when they've got what they wanted out of the gym or whatever it is, and or lifestyle change, they've lost a ton of weight or whatever it is. I was like, oh, I finally fit into that size 10, or I'm finally 11 stone, I've got what it is. And then you're like, shit, now what? You finally get what it is you wanted, and then suddenly, if you assign too much of your happiness to the goal, you've got to be a little bit careful, because as soon as you get that, you might feel a little bit deflated. You're obviously going to feel happy for what you've achieved, and you should feel proud of yourself, but there should be a part of you that's trying to enjoy the process just as much, because then afterwards, once you've achieved what it is you have, what you wanted, you can then go away, okay, now what do I want? What process am I going to now work towards to continue down the line?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can use myself as a great example of this. So I'm now proper into my taper ahead of London Marathon this weekend. I am already thinking about next Monday and next Tuesday's training, and how I now start to move into a maintenance phase. I know at the moment my next race is the start of August. So I know that in some period there, I'm going to have to start to get back into that kind of training mode. I'm no longer exercising, I'm starting to train, and I'm going to be training for that event in August. But what I won't do next week is just wake up on Monday morning and that's it, it's done. Got my marathon, I've hit the distances I wanted. That's it, I'm just going to bum about. I'm already thinking about now how I slip now into maintenance for a couple of weeks, just get my body back, get my recovery back, slowly start to build my legs back, slowly start to build my strength back again, and then move into that next phase. And I think that's a really important thing, is that what people don't do is think, if you're training for an event, you shouldn't look past it, but you should look beyond it. And what I mean by that is, I know we could use a fighter as a great example. Instead of focusing on who your next opponent's going to be, you need to focus on this opponent, but you also need to focus on the longevity of your career. And that's kind of how I sort of approach events that I do. I know that I'm running a marathon this weekend, and I know this isn't the last event I'm going to do, and I'm not looking past this. I'm not even considering what my times are going to be in anything later in the year, but I'm already thinking about, right, once I've got that 42K out of the way on Sunday, what do I move into on Monday and on Tuesday, and how do I transition from that into maintenance, then on to my next event? And I think that's the mistake that a lot of people make, is that, exactly as you've just said, I've hit that size 10, I've run that half marathon, I'm done. that's it. I've reached my goal. Now what? And that's where I think a lot of people slip off and they start to make that mistake. And I think it is really good that people just have those periods where they're no longer training for something and they're just training for the fun of it. They're going there just to get their body moving, to get themselves feeling happy, to take an hour out of lunch time or get up early in the morning, as you say, and just feel good about themselves for a little while. And I think that is just a real key time where people need to continue to be involved, because again, that's the easy time when it's really, really easy to slip off, is once you hit that short-term goal, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It is a case of you do kind of have to look beyond things a little bit. You're right. It's hard to I think, you know, you're always going to try and give yourself like people always try and give themselves as an excuse to like stop. Yeah. So like once you've achieved your goal, that's like the perfect excuse, right? Like, well, I've done it absolutely. Now. I've done what I was working towards, so I might as well I don't need to do anything anymore. So like, but you don't want to throw away all the work you've already done, you know, like that's just it would otherwise that process was a little bit of a waste. If you've run a 10K, sign yourself up for a half in 6 months time, you know, and just try and or just do something completely different. It doesn't have to be if you've been running the whole time, don't have to then carry on running if you don't want to. Like you do really something else that's physical, just crack on, and maybe you want to do some crazy swim or I don't know, a bike ride or an Ironman or a half Ironman or something, you know, just find something else.
Agree. I think that's the thing. I think people don't need to be defined by that one thing that they do. So for example, like right now I'm very run focused because I'm training for a marathon. If in case I haven't already said that. But
shit, you're running a London Marathon on Sunday.
Yeah, did you know that? Shit, Unbelievable. I'll see how it goes.
I'd be an awful friend if I didn't know you were running the London Marathon. And incredibly ignorant.
Yeah, absolutely. But my main focus last year was Hyrox. And I took the second half of the year, especially, I put all of my efforts into doing a Hyrox. Because it was something I wanted to do, and it just appealed to me. It very much suits my style of training, that mix of lifting, fast lifting, and running. And it was an event that actually really well suited me. I'm probably a little bit underweight for it, but I don't care. I just wanted to go out and I wanted to do that event, and I wanted to test myself. Literally within about 3 weeks of completing that Hyrox, I got my acceptance into the London Marathon. So there's that instant shift in mentality where you've got to go from being super strong and super quick over 1K at a time to being able to then run 42K. So the transition there is absolutely huge. And I think that's the reason why I continue to stay involved in sports, is because I do switch it up. I do mix it up. It's kind of like I've gone from 5K races, I've gone all the way up to ultras. I've done in between that, I've done obstacle course races, again ranging from 5K around the stadium to again 25, 26K plus distance. And I think that's the key thing, is just not letting yourself get bored. And then that goes all the way back to your training, is how do you keep your training fun? How do you structure your training in a way that keeps you wanting to go back?
Yeah, I've got a question for you. What the hell? I've seen it on TV, but what the hell is Hyrox? Is it just like some weird CrossFit variant?
So what it is it's a combination of strength exercises and running. It's the same format at every event. Okay, so it's one test. It's not like CrossFit where they throw in all these different things. So every event is a 1K run followed by, going to get the numbers wrong here, followed by a sled push, and the sled push is 140, somewhere between 120 and 140K. I can't remember, and I can't remember.
And you just do all this as quick as you can, kind of thing.
You just do all as quick as you can. And then it's another 1K run followed by a sled pull, another one. So every event has a 1K run, so I don't keep repeating myself.
Right. Okay.
And then it's a 1,000-meter row, 1,000-meter ski erg. There's sandbag lunges, burpee broad jumps, again all for distance. 100 wall balls is the finisher. I feel like I'm missing.
How long does this take? About half an hour?
I came in the top 20 and I finished in 1:16.
Oh, so it's over an hour. Oh
Yeah.
shit. Okay.
So
Actually,
yeah, so it's 8K of running, and each one has an event in between.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So I think
Half
the
an hour.
running for me worked out about 31, 32 minutes, and then the rest of it was spread across the 8 events.
Okay.
I was fast on the running, slower on the events because
sounds about right.
Because obviously, like, I weigh like
Running
70 kilos,
thing, yeah.
and I'm against guys that are like 90 plus kilos, but I was catching them on the running, so that's where the balance came in. But awesome event, awesome fun, really, really good way of pushing yourself. I think if I was to do it again, I'd probably start looking at doubles, as opposed to just like single person competition, just because the size difference. I feel like if I was to do mixed doubles or something like that, I'd probably be in a pretty good place.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, it's great. It's one of those events though that I would have had more fun if it was just a training session.
Okay, yeah, and you won't compete.
I really enjoyed the event and stuff like that, but I don't know if I enjoyed the environment so much. It's indoors at Birmingham NEC, and it was just it was like competing in a nightclub. It was just big and loud and brash.
Okay, yeah.
And I personally would have enjoyed it more if it was just a big training session and a little bit more relaxed and a bit more fun. But yeah, still a good event. Still a good event. Okay, and again, great way just to break things up and train for something different. I had to I kind of went to a different gym for a few months, started doing like strongman stuff, loads of sled pull stuff with those guys, and just really building up that kind of sort of functional movement strength and that sort of thing.
Okay.
And just tried to put on some weight as well. All of that though was still trying to maintain fast 1K times. So I was still trying to put like low 3 minute 1Ks. So I still had to try and maintain that as well. But again, that's going back to what we're saying. This is just a really good way of just breaking things up. I'd spent the early part of the year training for obstacle course races, longer distance ones as well. So a lot of my year was just running, lots of regular gym work and a lot of running. So by moving into that Hyrox, it just allowed me to kind of switch things up, start thinking about more of those strongman exercises, and just do something different for a couple of months.
Yeah, I think that's where me and you differ actually, because a lot of your sort of training is based it's like event based in a lot of respects. Like it's based around events, whereas mine right now is kind of doesn't really have an end date. Like I just want to get indefinitely better at climbing. So like it doesn't. I'm just for like the next several years. Like I don't have like an event I'm training for. Like I have a grade I want to get to by the end of the year. Like that's just kind of in the background going. But like whether I had the grade goal or not, I'm still going to be trying to get better. Like so it doesn't really. So the way I structure my training is like, at least now anyway, is I just do like 12-week blocks, and then each 12-week block I just switch things up a bit. Just to add a new stimulus as I find, because I'm still trying to learn the best way to get better and sort of cover extra ground. It's a case of I just want to switch things up every 12 weeks. But also, like we've been saying, just to keep things fresh and new and just add new exercises in a little bit.
Absolutely.
So it's just an ongoing for me thing, just to get better at climbing.
I think if I wasn't competing in any way, I would absolutely still be training, because there's obviously been periods in my life where I've not been competing. But so with the biggest period of that being when I first like stopped competing at MMA, for example. And the first thing there that I wanted to do was just train for the sake of enjoying it. I purposely wanted to do that. It kind of tied up with two things. So basically, when I made that decision that I wasn't going to compete anymore, at the time I had to have surgery on my nose, and it was like the third or fourth surgery that I'd had in a small period of time, and things like this. There's all these kind of things. I was like, I'm kind of bored of this now, and I wanted to kind of like just take a break from it, thinking that would probably be the last. That would kind of be the end of my competitive MMA career, as it was. So I went traveling for a bit, and whilst we were traveling, inevitably you don't work out as much as you would normally, and we just went off and enjoyed ourselves, put some weight on. So coming back from that, I had like kind of two things. One of them was like, I need to get back into shape, get back to where I was. The second one was, I just want to spend a little bit of time in training and enjoying it for me, because I've just spent so long doing it with that kind of fight mentality. I was always working towards a fight or a grappling competition or something like that. So for about 6 or 7 months, probably, that's all I did, was just work that for the sake of it. Had no programming, just just got up and enjoyed it. Right, today's going to be a weights day. I'm going to go out and smash some weights. I did upper body yesterday, so I'll do lower body today. I'm going to go for a run tomorrow. I was literally doing it all on the fly, no programming, no tracking, nothing. And then probably after, about 6 or 7 months, I was just starting to think to myself, I'm in great shape, but now I want to use this fitness. I'm a competitive person by nature. So that's when I started to move into actually competing with things, and entered like my first trail run, did really well, and then just kind of like progressed it from there. And what I realized instantly when I did that run was just kind of like, yeah, I'm competitive. I need to have this to keep me not motivated to train, but to always give me something to work towards. The two things just kind of fell in together. And then when I moved from trail into OCR and realized that I can actually do okay at this, it was kind of like, that's the next level of motivation. So like I then things like Spartan National Series and things like that, where it's kind of like, it means nothing to anybody except for me, I guess. But to me, it's like I'm competing at an event at a national level. So it's kind of like, I want to try and get that podium place on that event. So all of my training then would be focused towards getting there. But I don't think that goes any different than that person who wants to make themselves a size 10. Let's say their wedding is the 1st of August. They need to make that date. They should kind of look at their training in the same way. What I tend to do is I look at the date I'm competing, and then I work backwards. And I usually aim for like a 10 or a 12-week block building into that period. And I just work out what I need to do, like what key things I need to do along the way to get to that point on that date. And I think that's probably the same kind of mentality that people can apply to these like everyday goals. The only difference is that I've then got my next goal in mind, which is what I think people need to start considering is, okay, I want to get to size 10 on this date or by this date. What happens then? Like you already said, do I just hit that size 10 and drop off? Or do I think about, right, what have I got to do now to maintain that size 10? Because if I suddenly creep up to size 12, 14, whatever it is, and then I want to go back to being a size 10, it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder to do it again. So I think that's what people need to do, is absolutely just start looking beyond the goal and how do they then maintain that level of fitness that they got.
I think, yeah, it's interesting because I feel like it's hardest to like say, like, for example, it's hard to say get 100 kilo bench, but once you've got it, it's easy to maintain. But I think that also works on the flip side in terms of once you've been like, say, seriously overweight, it's far easier to get back to being seriously overweight. So I think 100%. It does kind of work both ways. But for even once you've achieved what it is you want to achieve, like you just said, maintenance can be a goal. Like just maintaining 100%. What it is you have. And to be honest, maintaining is far easier than gaining in the first place in every 100%. Respect. So like, just you'll probably find you can, once you've achieved what it is you achieve, taper off for a bit and just chill out. Say you've been hitting the gym 4 times, you can probably hit it 2 or 3 and just maintain it is what you have so far while you figure out what it is you next want to do. It's just a case of you just really don't want to throw away all the work you've already put in because it's just not, it's just not good.
I think that's a really, it's just weird. Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, why waste 3 months, 4 months, 12 months of your life on something? And I think that was a lot of the reason why when I stopped MMA that I wanted to get into something else, is because I put all these years to something. I built this massive base of fitness. Then why lose that? And obviously I knew the enjoyment that just being fit brought to my life. The things that it did for me, both sort of mentally and physically. And I think that the real key thing there is, just moving into that maintenance phase. And I think that maintenance phase is like one of the most important phases in a way, because I think this is where people start to get the most enjoyment out of things, because this is where they're actually, they've hit their goal and now they're staying at their goal level. There's, I know, work-life balance, all of this kind of things. Like, life is stressful, life is busy. If you've got like a family and children, a mortgage, all of these things contribute to stress. And like, for people just getting out for an hour a day and breaking that cycle and just losing themselves in exercise, I think that's a massive thing. And I think that's why that maintenance phase is really, really important. And at any one point, you can do exactly as you said there. You can just take a little step back from it You can take a little ramp up. You
have
can
a
do the things
deload,
you need to do.
have a break. Just like, because you're gonna feel burnt out as it is. At some point, everyone feels burnt out at some point. So it's just like, you just give yourself a chance, but don't obviously just like cut everything all together. At least hold yourself accountable at least a little bit. But just just accept how you. It's almost just accepting how you feel, but not necessarily giving into every emotion that might be there. You have to obviously still like you still have to remain at least a little bit disciplined, but you can still listen to yourself and be like gentle with yourself a little bit. Sometimes you don't have to. It doesn't have to be either extreme. There is like a lot of gray, and like there is a middle ground with all of this. It's not either go hard or go home. There is sometimes like go a little bit hard and maybe spend a little bit more time at home, like.
So because let's be fair, like over the course of a month, are you better to have worked out every other day or every third day, or done nothing? And regardless, if that working out is half-assed, or you're just going through the motions, I would still argue that's much better than
way better. Exactly.
And that's exactly what I'm going to do next week. I'm already at that point now where I'm pretty much like done with running for the short term. It's like I've run so much recently, it's just ridiculous. And I know I've got a big run. But what I won't do next week is stop running. What I'll do is I'll just be like, right, I'm going out for a run. It's going to be capped at an hour, as opposed to going out for a run and like banging out 3.5 hours and things like that. And again, it's like I don't need to worry about pacing. It's like all I'll do is I'll just literally change my Garmin to have a timer on it, and I'll just go out and run by feel for a few weeks, get my body back, get myself comfortable. And I think this is like the real key things that people will sort of get wrong. And this is with all types of training now. It is exactly like you've said, that just go hard or go home type of attitude. It is not the way to train. It's like we all know that we should be kind of sort of periodizing our kind of routines and working towards something and this kind of thing. There's a reason you follow a training program. There's a reason I've been training for 42k runs since Christmas, because I'm not just going to get up one day and go, I'm running a marathon today and I'm going to do it in like 3 hours and that's that, because that's just not how it might work like that for some people, but like that's just not how it works. So I can't just walk into a gym at any one point and go, right, I'm going to squat like 140 kilos today at 70 kilos body weight. It just isn't going to happen. And this is why people obviously do need to follow those programs, and they do need to do things properly. And sometimes that's the only go you need. There's that kind of magic number in the gym for a lot of guys. It's like, right, I'm going to bench 100, or I'm going to deadlift 100, or I'm going to squat 100. And that could be their goal. Instead of worrying about this bigger picture, just right in my mind, I know that right over the next 6 weeks, that's what I'm going to work towards, is just getting that short-term goal of 100 kilos. And exactly like you've said, once you hit it once, it's there, you can do it. And then you might start to then do that 2 or 3 times a month or once a week, who knows. And of course then it's just like, right, what now will my PR be? Can I get 102.5? Can I get 100 for 2? This kind of thing. It's just small baby steps. But I think those are the things that people really, really need to focus on. It's just sort of realizing that it is small steps, but they're attainable steps over time.
Yeah. It was a weird one, actually, just kind of on a tangent. We're talking about PRing. I pulled 150 for the first time on trap bar yesterday.
Nice.
And what was interesting is I've been doing 2 sets, literally 2 sets a week on trap bar for like the past 12 weeks. And I've somehow PR'd on it, despite in previous training, like I don't know, last year when I still didn't really know what I was doing. Was doing it like 2 times a week and more sets. 2 times a week for like 12 weeks. I've like somehow gone from like 140 to 150, and it pulled easy. Like I feel like I could pull 152 and a half, 155. I was just like, it's just weird. I mean, I've been training like a lot of plyometrics as well and like high velocity work. I don't know if that's paying off too, but it's just felt it was really odd because my box jump has gone up and my trap bar deadlift has gone up, which is really sick. So I hit exactly what I wanted at in terms of that power and velocity training, or force and velocity training. But I just thought that was kind of weird. But yeah, 66 kilo body weight is what I weigh right now. So 150, I was pretty chuffed with. Yeah,
because I mean, most people are kind of be thinking with a bar deadlift, hitting 2 times your own body weight is going to be like up there.
It is a bit easier with trap bar, I can't lie, but yeah.
But I mean, still, like say 66 kilos, putting 150 off the ground, like that, it's good weight. Right. But I find exactly that. I find that, so I generally now, I do go through little cycles in my lifting, and I do look at the end of each of those little cycles, not psychos, to be hitting a decent weight. But I'm not worried about PRing anymore. Like I don't like vanity lift or anything. I go in there and I try to get the most out of it, depending on how I feel on that day. But I always know towards the end of like these kind of little sort of micro cycles that
you want to see where you're at,
light to heavy. Yeah. And it's so bizarre the amount of times that you just smash one out on the day you're not expecting. Excuse me, on the day you're not expecting. I did my last squat session ahead of the marathon on Saturday, and it was 10 followed by 5x5 followed by 3x3, right. And the 5x5 all came really easy, up at over 100k, and then the 3x3s, it was just a case of just I knew the weight I wanted to lift, which was actually only going to be 90 kilos. I didn't actually intend to go into like triple figures because I wanted to keep it relatively moderate for myself, because I'm racing next week and it was going to be my last leg workout. But I was like, oh, do you know, I'll just start piling them on. And again, I was nowhere near a PR, but those 3x3s came so easy, and each one I just took the weight out, and right? You can just really comfortable lifts. And it's like, if I had on that day of just been thinking, do you know, I'm just going to go for it, that would have been a PR day. There's absolutely no doubt about it.
You know it. Yeah, you just know.
It was just so comfortable. Now that was the end of a little cycle, because I knew exactly what this was going to look like, and I knew that was going to be my last leg workout for a week, or for a week and a half, and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I should have been strong at that point, but I was just so comfortably strong. And it is strange how these things sometimes happen. Sometimes there is no actual rhyme or reason for just being strong on any given one day or at the end of one cycle. I found that just introducing hang cleans into my training,
that's in my next meso. Next meso, I'm switching from just standard trap bar deadlift to trap bar hang cleans.
Yeah, and it changed everything. It's like my explosiveness went up, my lifting ability went up, my pull from the ground went up, and it was just that one small exercise. But I think that unstuck probably about 3 or 4 years of training, just introducing that one exercise into my routine.
That's the thing, new stimulus, man. Just got to switch, add some new stimuluses every now and again. That's one I'm really excited to introduce, to see where my explosiveness goes over that next 12-week meso. I'm thinking of working. I'm going to try and start at 60% one rep max. So that would be like 90 or something ish. Yeah. So I'm going to work at 60% to start with, I think, and then kind of go from there. I don't want to start too heavy, really. I did feel it out after I did the PR set, and 60. I did 5, just a set of 5 just to feel out, and it felt pretty good off the ground. So I was like, I'll probably start at 60% and then just slowly increase, maybe to 70 by the end of the 12 weeks. But something. And like
again, things like that as well, like well, you know, this from a conversation we had in the gym about a week ago when I was in the front squatting, and I just did a pyramid front squat up and down. Again, just introducing those kind of secondary exercises to support, like my main lift would always be a back squat there, but just introducing something like a front squat that is that transition between obviously the kind of Olympic lifting and the more powerlifting based stuff. And it's amazing what those kind of exercises can do for your power. And of course, something like a front squat, where you obviously are getting that squat stimulus, but it also translates into things like snatches, it translates into your cleans, it translates into your thrusters, overhead work. If you work push press, if you work jerk, the front squat kind of backs up all of those
front squat for Olympic lifting is just you can't not do it.
And sometimes it is just finding those little golden movements that just change everything for you. And
you're right.
And I think it is just like, it's moving out. Something we said right at the very beginning here, where you've got that person that's just going to the gym 3 times a week, doing the same weights, the same workout over and over and over again. Of course, they're getting benefit from it. But let's just say on one day they switch out pec flies on a machine to a heavy bench press. They're suddenly, just from changing that one movement, probably going to start to notice a new set of gains again. because they've taken away this machine, so they're now using this bar that they've got to balance, and they've got to start to use all those little secondary muscles, and they've got to actually start to re-engage
or just go from a normal bench to a dumbbell bench. It could be as simple as that, really. Like
100%,
literally,
just small switch outs. And I do those things sort of all the time as well. There's plenty of days where I pick up the bar and it's like the 20-kilo bar feels heavy, and it's like, do you know what? I'm not going to risk it. I'm experienced enough to know that today isn't the day. So this is almost the opposite of what we said just now, where you go in there and you feel super strong and you just smash out those PRs without even thinking about it. There's also those days where you walk in there and you're like, that feels terrible. It's like, that's cool. Don't walk away. Don't go home. Just change it. Or just take a little step back for a moment.
Yeah,
like,
just do it easy. Yeah,
lift heavy every time.
No, you're right. We did have a good comprehensive list of stuff.
Which I think we
just pick off a few of these and I do some brush over some.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think let's definitely talk about, at least as quick as we can anyway, exercise versus training. I think we have kind of talked about that. I think we just kind of explained that exercise is a bit more broad, and that's a bit more, I think, a little more lifestyle orientated, while training is something you have for a specific goal.
You have a specific goal. There's usually an end point, whether that be
an end point,
a personal goal, or it be that you're training for an event.
I'm training to get better at climbing, but I don't have an end goal. So like sometimes training can be like for a sport to get better at that thing, or you have like a marathon this Sunday and that's what you're training for. So it can,
in which case, so it absolutely can, because my lifting right now is supplementary to my running. My programming right now is all based around my running to reach my end goal. My lifting is supplementary to that. And that's kind of how it's for you. Like, obviously, you're working, your main focus right now is climbing, but you're using your strength training as a supplement to get better at climbing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, you're right.
I think, without kind of hanging on this one for too long, the difference between exercise and training is usually that, like, you've got that goal and you've got a program that you're following, and you've got certain steps or certain key markers or workouts that you need to hit along the way to reach that goal. Be it running a 21k, be it lifting a certain weight, that kind of thing. And there is usually an end game. The one bit of advice that I would always give to that is what I said just now about my own training, is work backwards. Right, I'm going to lift this squat on this date. What have I got to do to get there? Let's say I've got 8 weeks to get there. Okay, and I'll just make the numbers up now, but let's say the final lift, I want to hit 100 kilos for 1 rep on this date. So what can I do over 8 weeks going backwards to do that? How do I get to, and I would just kind of go like 100, 95, 90, 85. Again, I'm making real basic numbers here, but what steps have I got to take along the way to get there, from what I can lift now to what I think I can lift then, that kind of thing. I think that kind of leads.
I think exercise will generally apply to like old people, right? They just need to exercise to keep healthy. Like, it's not that they can't then up weights and make progress. It's just, it's a bit more like they just, people like that, where I work, they'll just go to classes and stuff to stay healthy, and it's social and it's something to do. Like, that's exercising, that's just keeping healthy and keeping fit. And they don't have to, you don't have to worry about stuff like that, like too much about training to get better and all this shit. You can just exercise to have fun and stay healthy, play a sport that you love, that you just like to exercise with, go play football with your five-a-side once a week. That's just, get some exercise in.
I personally think exercise is less stressful than training.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, when you and I think that's the key thing, that exercise is just like you say, you're going out, you're enjoying yourself, you're moving your body, it's social. Training is when you're actually focused on something, and that's when this can become stressful. And this is when you've got to be careful of the obsession of things. You've got to be careful about getting carried away with like your food and your calories and obsessing over the numbers and all of those kind of things. Those are things that with exercise you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. That when you start delving into training territory, for sure.
Absolutely.
But I think what stuff we've kind of brushed over a little bit is when you are looking to sort of take it up a notch, I think you do need to provide yourself some sort of structure to your workouts and maybe some periodization. You work things into blocks, and just start writing down everything you're doing. You really do need to start logging a bit more. You need to track. Otherwise, you just don't know. I mean, some people, I know some people don't track and they're fine. I think, do you know what's funny? I feel like maybe it's funny with general muscle growth and like hypertrophy work. If you're pushing to failure like a lot, like more or less every session, sometimes the weights don't necessarily matter as much because you're chasing that feeling of slowing of contraction speed. So it doesn't necessarily matter what weight's on the bar as long as you're getting that failure feeling. It doesn't really matter. But to monitor progressive overload, you do need to write it down maybe a little bit. But yeah, generally, like I feel like it's funny because it's obviously a big part of. But then again, I think it's also great to just write stuff down so you can just like think I've got spreadsheets from the past 3 years. I can look at like 3 years ago what I was lifting and look at now and be like, oh shit, I've actually come quite far in 3 years. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a real key thing that people don't do. And I think if you're going to do anything that means you're going to be chasing a PR or you're going to be chasing a max lift or whatever it might be, then you need to track it. You need to log it. At the very, very minimum, you need to know what you did to get that.
Yeah, exactly.
PR. What did you do? So if you're in that exercise phase, maybe you aren't tracking every workout. You're just going to the gym. You're doing some biceps and triceps. You're lifting vanity, whatever it might be. But once you start actually dialing it in and start to think about stuff, then I think you absolutely need to do it. And I absolutely kind of track my stuff. It's really easy now, like to track stuff. You can just do it on your phone. It's not difficult. I obviously, I obviously for my running, I wear my Garmin for everything, and everything is being tracked. I wear external heart rate monitor, so all of my running stuff takes care of itself. It's really easy. Just plug it to Garmin or Strava, whatever it might be. But then it's the same with my lifts. I'm the same as you. I've got a spreadsheet there. I know what my clean PR is, and I know what steps I took to get that clean PR, and I know what steps I need to take to get my next clean PR, and so on and so on. And I think this is a really, really important thing, because actually you just end up blindly rocking up at the gym thinking, right, I'm going to do cleans today. And it's okay, yeah, of course, like sometimes you do just have to go off the field, but we're only as good as our memories, and quite often our memories aren't that great. And I can't remember what 6-week cycle I did 2 years ago to get a clean PR, but I can go back and look at it and see the steps.
And I can see exactly what I did.
Make. And another important thing when you do kind of track is just make a note of how you felt. Really small thing. Was it easy? Was it difficult? Did you feel good on that day? Were you tired? Just score yourself out of 10. Just tiny little things like that, so you know that I didn't hit the numbers I wanted to hit that day, but I also scored myself as a 3 out of 10 for fatigue, or 10 out of 10 for fatigue, depending on how you want to do it. But something like that. So just be aware of how you're actually sort of physically feeling that day, because again, that massively impacts.
I can usually tell just by like, sometimes I'll color code it or like block out in red if I miss something, or I'll put it in orange and then just write down whatever is lifted. But I can usually just tell by like the tracking on the numbers on the day, you know, like if I've been like, say, doing like 135 for 3, 135 for 4, 140 for 2, and then suddenly 130 for 2. I know, like that was probably a shit day. I know something was probably off that day. Like that, the progression wasn't linear. So I just, you know, but that's fine. It's only 1 week at the end of the day. It's only 1 day. Like that's fine.
And that's exactly that's a really good point. There is that it is only one session. You should never take your last session into the next one. And that works in both ways. Yes, you should take the confidence of a strong session into the next one, but don't take it for granted that the next session is going to be a build on that, because it isn't. Over a 12-week period, of course it will be. You should see a progression. But there are going to be days where you feel absolutely shit hot, and there are going to be days where you feel absolutely terrible. And sometimes those days where you feel absolutely terrible end up being the best sessions. That's the other thing.
Yeah, I've had that a lot.
The way you feel when you walk in the gym isn't the way that it's going to go. And it's really, really kind of it's up to you to sort of determine how it's going to feel once you start moving. Once you start lifting.
If you feel like shit when you get into the gym, just get warmed up first. And like maybe do the first lift or two, because you can't really tell until you've actually started where you're at. Because I've had so many sessions where I feel like crap, my body aches, but I've either beat the rep target that I was going for or like whatever and done better than I thought. Like, to be honest, like yesterday when I was putting that PR, I just felt a bit like shit. My nervous system just didn't feel quite on, but I still pulled it.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes you just can't really tell. You just
absolutely
let your body get warmed up first, get into it, and sometimes you'll find at least then you might push through a little bit of the workout anyway.
I find that very often on my interval days for my runs. So the way that I've kind of scheduled them for this block is that I would do my long run, then I would do an easy run, and then the next day would be my interval session. And my interval sessions normally last anything from 45 to 55 minutes, depending on the distance of those intervals. Now, depending on how the long run went 2 days before, those intervals can either be shit hot or they can be absolutely terrible. But the easiest thing that I've found over time is normally what I do for my interval sessions is I give myself an 800-meter warm-up and then I crack into my intervals. But sometimes it's just like at the end of that 800, it's just feel a bit clunky. Just give myself another 800. I'll just extend that warm-up a little bit. So I've now done basically a mile. And it's like, how do I feel now? And it's like, if I get to that 1,600 meters or that mile distance and I'm like, still feeling a bit clunky, I'll just put the extra 400 meters on, take it up to a 2K warm up. By then, I am really ready to go. It's probably because of the pace I warm up. It's the best part of 10 minutes. My body should be moving now. I should have started to get my head into it and I'll be ready to go. Now, on another day, like say that 800 is going to be all I need. I can just go out there, I can bang it out, 4 or 5 minutes work, and I'm ready to go. But sometimes it is just a case of listening to yourself. And instead of just stepping off and giving up on the session, just take that, like you just said, take that extra tiny little bit of time to understand what you need. Is it better to kind of put an extra 5 minutes into your warm up and then have a really good session? Or are you better, or should you just fumble your way through it? Everything's a bit clunky, everything's a bit off, you risk injury, your head's not in it, you didn't enjoy it, you drag that into the next session because you remember your last session being bad. It's just small things like that. And with my intervals, all that means is that, like, instead of doing 10 intervals, I might do 9. But if those 9 intervals were shit on, I got the stimulus I wanted, then to me that's a productive session rather than doing 10 really shit ones and not hitting anything.
You just have to start. That's one thing you just got to start picking up on as you sort of move down the line. Is you just have to start listening to your body more and kind of understand what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Because everyone's different, and that's what you'll find. Like, some people can just rock up and do stuff no matter what. You know, some people will be able to put on weight with 2,500 calories. Some people have to be 4 or 5. You know, like, you just have to find, like, or like some people can cut on 2K, some people have to cut on 1,000. Like, everyone's just like so different. So you really have to listen to your body and find out what works for you, and just start paying attention to that a little bit more. Put your ear to it and just kind of make a mental note of kind of where you're at and what warm-ups work for you, what kind of loosens your body up more, what bits are generally more stiff on when you warm up that you have to put more attention into. I know we're using warm up as quite an example, but it's quite a good example to be there.
It is a really good example.
And like recovery as well, like how much sleep do you need? Or like make a note, okay, I had 8 hours sleep last night and I feel okay. I had 7 the next night and I felt better. So maybe 7 is actually where I'm going to be at. And just start thinking about those things a little bit more. Maybe just make a note if you need to.
Like almost going full circle here, right back to the whole sleep thing, because you just touched on it. But generally, I feel better if I'm waking up around 7 a.m. than I do when I wake up around 7:30, because I go to sleep at roughly the same time every night. And I wake up roughly the same time every morning. Sometimes if I drag that on 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30, start to feel shit again. And it is just small things like that. Just make a note of these things, understand it. It's like, well, do you know what? When I get up at 8 o'clock, I feel absolutely knackered. But if I get up at 7:15, whatever it is, it's like I feel quite good. I'm okay. Getting up's crap, and I said this before. Like, I don't care what time of day it is, it's crap. But at least try to find that little window where it feels okay. We're all going to have to get up. Like, it's as simple as that.
And if you prefer going in the evening, go in the evening. You don't have to go in the morning. Like, just go whatever time of day suits you. I know people that would rather train at 12 o'clock at night. Because it's just 100%. where they feel they're most productive. That's fine. Like I used to know a guy back when I used to work in retail, right? His body clock was he would get up at like, I don't know, 12 p.m., 1 p.m. He would go to work at 2 p.m. until 10, and then he'd go home for a bit, and then he'd go to the gym at like 12, 1 in the morning, and then sleep after that. So his morning was like at 2 p, like doing a morning shift was him like getting up at 1 p.m. So his whole cycle was just completely opposite.
But it clearly worked for him.
Yeah. No, it worked for him though, and he went more or less every day, and he lifted and stuff. He got it done, and he just liked working, like lifting in an empty gym. So there's fuck all people in there at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So he got to use everything he wanted to use, and like you don't have that pressure of like which people find with the gym, obviously, and those kind of anxieties and stuff from lifting around people. He could just have the gym to himself. I think something I was speaking to someone about. I think anxieties can be depending on the person a little bit, and the type of person for sure. Like I think if you're a woman or whatever, or like particularly a young woman, your anxieties are definitely in a different place compared to if you're a bloke. You're like a lot of women I know that they'll be worried about people staring at them, guys staring at them, and that kind of thing. If you're an old person, you just maybe don't want to look stupid, or like you don't know what you're doing, or like you shouldn't belong there and being intimidated by young people. If you're a young bloke, you don't want to be emasculated by all the other guys in there that are like big and lifting heavy weights. So there's definitely like that kind of anxieties and stuff. But I think you'll definitely find over time those things will generally wear themselves away. You just have to chip away at that by just keep going.
And I think this goes with that kind of just getting confidence in the surroundings. It's like the longer you spend in that environment, the longer you become part of that environment. The longer you stop and you start chatting to people, and you realize that, again, we've already kind of taught us that everybody at every level, and you talked there about 3 or 4 different types of people, everybody has hang-ups of some type. Nobody just walks into, well, I'm sure there are some people, nobody walks in there with no anxieties or no hang-ups, or they're not thinking about the other people. Like the big guys are all worried about what the next big guy next to them is lifting, and like everybody is comparing themselves to somebody, and there's not many people that are just going in there and just blindly getting on with it. And I think that is just a really, really key point, is that people will have these anxieties, but you can work around them, whether it's, like you say, it's the time of day that you go, whether it's the confidence of continuing to go to that space. You never know that person that you're the most intimidated of in the gym, as soon as you talk to them, they could actually be the nicest person on the planet. Like a lot of it is just breaking barriers and just kind of
you'll always be surprised.
And I think we're lucky generally in the environment we work at. Everyone there is pretty friendly, and everyone generally chats to each other. In fact, the amount of times I've had to, I think I've done it to you. I've had to apologize to you, like, or text you after, be like, just in a rush. I wasn't being rude, because everyone does stop and chat and things like that. And that kind of thing. And that's just the environment it is. And I've historically found that pretty much any gym environment I've been to, any MMA gym, jiu-jitsu gym, everybody's the same like that. Once you just get past that exterior, everyone's absolutely sound.
There's a mutual respect there between everyone, really. Everyone kind of knows the journey and whatever that everyone's on, and there's always someone there that knows more or less exactly what you've been through and what you're currently going through. So
because that big guy in the corner that everyone's intimidated of wasn't always that big guy.
Wasn't always big. Yeah, exactly.
There's a story for him to be there, or her to be there, as it was.
Unless Andre the Giant's in the corner, then he was always big.
That would be the best gym ever.
I don't know. He would take up a hell of a lot of space, and in the gym that we have, I don't think. No, I don't know if I want Andre the Giant in our gym, if I'm being honest. I mean, I know he's dead, so he's not going to turn up anytime soon to Thornbury.
So I'll bring what we have tomorrow.
Yeah, we were going to have Chuck Liddell in the gym at one point. Did you know that?
No.
Literally, like before COVID, Chuck Liddell was scheduled to come to the Leisure Centre to do a talk, but COVID happened and it got cancelled. Chuck Liddell. How nuts is that? How did that happen? Who arranged that? Chuck Liddell. No way where we live does anyone know who the fuck Chuck Liddell is.
Me and you?
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Me, you, and like Morgan.
Yeah,
that would have been the only people there.
I have a photo from, this is a long time ago. So I was training with London Shoot Fire guys, so it's going back a long way. And it was when the UFC did their first show at the Royal Albert Hall. So this is like UFC 38 or something like that. I don't know, long time ago. And I've got a photo of me stood with Tito, we're both like in typical fighters pose, and then like literally stood behind me is Chuck Liddell, and it's like both those guys are big old units, especially them, because that was like they're kind of like
205,
205,
right? I mean,
205 heyday,
like,
and they're walking around at like 220, 230.
Yeah, big dudes. I feel like 205 guys are even
guys.
bigger these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tito Ortiz though, like his hands were huge. It's ridiculous because I was fighting at the time, and I think I was fighting at either 61 or 65. I can't remember, but yeah, we both kind of stood there like this, and it's ridiculous. I literally look like a child stood next to him. It's ridiculously crazy. But yeah, they're big old guys. But no, I didn't know that. That would have been
that would have been nuts, right? COVID ruined a lot, but it ruined the opportunity for us to meet Chuck Liddell officially.
Bizarre.
So that's the biggest tragedy of COVID right there.
It could possibly be.
No, I don't want to joke about that. Millions of people died. But on that note,
but you didn't get to meet Chuck.
Yeah, so. Chuck. Yeah, there you go. My battery's about to die on my laptop, so I think do you know what? Looking at our list, I actually think we covered everything, which I'm quite surprised at because I didn't think we would.
I think we bumbled away for a few things there. There's definitely a few takeaways there. So
yeah, for sure. I think it's good follow on from the last one. I think for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. I'm happy with that.
Brilliant. Let's do it. Good stuff. Right, on to the next one.